The fallout from the TikTok ban, the app, and others owned by the Chinese company ByteDance going dark overnight. Let's take a deeper look into all of this and what's next for the more than 100 million U.S. users, content creators, and more impacted by this. Let's go back to Elizabeth Schulze, who is joining us once again, and ABC News contributor Mike Muse, a Google Tech Policy Fellow, an expert on all things. Mike Muse, it's great to have you, along with Elizabeth. Mike, let's start with you, though. Do you think that these other social media apps that many are flocking to, we were talking about Red Note and others, could actually become as popular as TikTok?
Well, first, good morning, everyone. And Elizabeth and I are twinning right now. So good morning, Elizabeth. They absolutely can be as popular, but that's such a great question because it really goes to the fundamental question of, does Congress understand technology? And what exactly is Congress attempting to do with this ban? Because of the fact that we're going to start seeing more tech applications and social media applications coming to the forefront, because one thing we know about American users is they love to be early adopters on social media apps in order to build their followers quicker and to gain more of a massive following when you're first in. And so the American government has got to come clear on what is it they're trying to regulate. Is it content moderation? Is it the fear of having our foreign adversaries be involved in content manipulation? Well, we've already seen that with our foreign adversaries on Twitter, now known as X, as well as on Facebook. And so for me, the law was never really clear on what the U.S. was intending to do.
Elizabeth, let's turn to you because there are so many content creators right now who are really making a living on TikTok. Do we have any idea what will happen to them? We're talking about sponsorships, all of that. They're even their customers because we have small businesses that are there too.
No question, Gio. And big picture, TikTok is a contributor to the overall American economy. The company says it adds about $15 billion to small business revenue per year. It supports more than 200,000 jobs. A lot of the content creators on the platform do already have accounts on some of the U.S. competitors that exist out there already. So think of Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Snapchat Spotlight. Those sponsorships that those content creators have will also need to find a new home if TikTok stays banned. And analysts think that about $8 billion in those advertising revenues on TikTok would need to move to other platforms. Almost half of that, guys, could end up going over to Meta-owned platforms. So Meta could emerge as a big winner here. One reality, though, about TikTok is that algorithm has really kept users hooked on the platform for longer than some of those competitors. So far, they haven't really been able to replicate that. And that has really made it coveted, not just among advertisers, but also among those businesses really looking at that younger targeted demographic.
Those are really great points that you just made, Elizabeth. And Mike, I want to bring you back in. I'm sad that you aren't matching with me, my friend. So when you were talking before about the manipulation with the algorithm and things like that, some could say that that's why we are seeing this law extend to Chinese-owned social media apps beyond TikTok, but not to those commerce sites like Shein and Temu that we see that are so popular. But the question I want to ask you, Mike, is why then don't we have these American-owned apps or things that can compete or that can bring in the revenue? And why are people now turning to Red Note, say, versus an American version of that? Why don't we have that as an option?
Those are all great questions that you asked, Janae. And in particular, TikTok's attorney at the Supreme Court was asking that exact same question when he said that this law does not have an inclusionary law to include those e-commerce sites exactly that you just mentioned. And for me, Janae, if national security is the real crux of this, why is President Biden, through his press secretary, saying that they will not enforce any of the regulatory punishment that would happen to app stores like the Google Play Store if they were to continue using TikTok? Also, too, if national security is such a biggest threat, why is President Trump's income administration signaling that they're willing to work with TikTok if it was actually national security, which leads us today to believe that is politics in play or is national security into play, which is what Elizabeth and you are actually saying in terms of no U.S. company as of now has found the stickiness that the algorithm that TikTok has that makes American users want to stay in there so long. Instagram Live has that moment and Reels does, but it doesn't have that hold on it the way that TikTok does because it's organic content recommendation, whereas the other social media apps have so many products and tools that Americans has to use in order to gain more followers, in order to be promoted in the app, is what frustrates so many American users. So, Janae, that is the million or billion-dollar question that needs to be asked in terms of how to keep American users more sticky in the platforms.
All right. Well, Trump promised to address this directly after his inauguration tomorrow, so we'll see what happens this week. Mike Muse, Elizabeth Schulze, thank you so much for your insight this morning here.